forecast said that there'd be snowflakes. Whoa, you can make us see it your way. No way, gasoline and propane, more flames. Oh no, no more snowflakes.
We can all get along, but there's no stopping. Ay, everybody's wrong, that's a real problem. Ay, they don't want to hear it, but they still talking. Ay, soon enough, we running out of options. Ay, this ain't gonna end till it's in the coffin. Ay, we ain't gonna be friends till we try to squash it. Ay, I don't know how we can make amends or we drop it. Snowflakes melt when it's hot, kid.
Y'all are so fake. Oh no, the forecast said that there'd be snowflakes. Whoa, you can make us see it your way. No way, gasoline and propane, more flames. Oh no, no more snowflakes.
This is Amária Sweet with HeartMind Expressions and the Fab Four. Tonight we have a special guest with us, our dear friend Venezia Fanus, and
Hello.
we've got Sue McClure, Dr. Alex Bloom, and Alex Spielman will be joining us a little bit later. He's kind of predisposed. So lots of stuff to kind of talk about today, a little bit on some targeting, some current events. Let me do a couple of plugs to start with. Of course, we're so grateful for Soma Fusion and iEvolveTV. And to support our amazing Katie Kamara, she's our producer, we've got Savvy Clothing Line. And what it is it's a clothing line for women, fitness wear that's for women, empowering women of all ages and sizes. So savvy.com/Soma Fusion, savvi.com/Soma Fusion. And also a thanks to some of our sister stations, C4OC Radio Network and Rev Radio Las Vegas. So guys, how are you doing?
Great,
crazy stuff?
great.
It's Friday.
Although, yeah, TGIF,
Right?
TGIF. We have
Friday.
survived another week under the, what do we call it? The pre-communist regime.
Oh my goodness, the medical fascism, all this fun stuff. So yeah, wow. So I know that you guys were wanting to kind of talk on targeting. Did you want to kind of start with like some of the current events that are circling around it, or how did you guys want to kind of dig into this?
Yeah, I just thought we'd go with the flow as far as
Yeah.
well, I have a feeling that was Alex.
That's the way we should do it. Just come in with it.
That's
full
right,
force,
baby.
yeah. I love it.
You asked, I delivered. Oh my
I
God.
love it. This is a fun group that anybody that's listening that knows any of us, we have fun with our game nights, and you gotta have fun with life. So targeting, I mean, there's a lot of different aspects of it. I myself, of course, have been through quite a bit of it. My family, a lot of us that are super soldiers. I happen to be one of the Lixildaten as well as Solar Warden. I've been in some other groups. And it's been crazy. You can go back, any of our listeners, and see a lot of our videos where we've actually had times when we've shut down, times when the internet's been sketchy, shady, and it's like fine 1 minute and crazy in the next. That's one type of targeting. They can do like different types of technology targeting. The CIA recently released documents on directed energy weapons and actually using them on people and targeted victims. And so pretty crazy stuff. MK Ultra is kind of one of those things that we could dig into. There's rabbit holes all over that. Monarch programming. I've got some videos on that I've gone through, even on my YouTube page under my playlist for the SSP or Secret Space program. There's several links there that are really good if you're wanting to kind of go down that rabbit hole. There's a ton of amazing places that people can go. Go ahead, Sue.
I would actually like to get into altogether in case there's people that's never even heard this, because over what 4 years ago I never even heard of it. So it's never even crossed my mind the existence of targeting. So there's one of you guys want to actually define what it is when you talk about targeting? What is targeting?
Well, targeting basically means that you've been singled out somehow. And depending on the type of target you are, and there are all different kinds, and there are hundreds of programs at this point, at least 150 plus offshoots. So targeting has a very broad array. It can be anywhere from directed energy weapons, gang stalking, which is also organized stalking, auto mobbing, vehicular harassment, and there's also workplace mobbing, so they can push you out of jobs too. All of the above has happened to me. Then along with the directed energy, you can throw in voice to skull, and there are 6 different ways to beam voices into your mind. Look at that. And so these targeting programs, I'm kind of go a little bit off topic here, but these targeting programs tend to mimic paranoid schizophrenia on purpose, and it is to discredit the target. And so that's pretty much what their intention is, to get you in the psych ward or in jail or in both, and to forever discredit you. That's the goal. And so a lot of people get thrown into these programs, unfortunately, because they are whistleblowers, or they are activists, or they're in these families, these bloodline families for the MK Ultra, and it's very extensive. So I think I had some conversation with Alex, the other Alex, not Doc, prior to this, that what I wanted to cover, at least in part, was the topic as far as targeting as it relates to the people in the disclosure community, because a lot of people in the disclosure community now are targeted in one way or another, whether it is psychic attacks, directed energy attacks without them really knowing, or the stalking. They may not even be aware because it is done covertly. So I just wanted to put that one out there. So
yeah, it's amazing that they're willing to spend the money to do it, and it's spend the time to do it. The number of main things they do is they pick on people who may have a history before they woke up or anything, that they spent some time in a psych ward, mental hospital, or that they've been under counselor care or psychiatric care. They've taken antidepressants. People have history of suicide attempts, things like that. And they're the easiest people to pick on because nobody's going to believe them. Because if you even go to any authority whatsoever, they'll look at your record and say, well, yeah, but in the past you were on these meds. On the past you were in, a mental hospital. In the past you were here. Why should we ever listen to you?
Right.
I mean, you don't look sensible. If you don't act sensible, you don't show any form of authority. And I noticed that the higher up in the so-called food chain that you get in life, whether you start working for certain types of companies, businesses, especially people who works for NASA, people who work for other organizations that touch in with the government, especially if you work for the Pentagon and stuff like that, you are definitely got a big fat rear end target on your back, if not your front and on your backside. So some of it times in the back of your head. Yeah. So, so I've now seen it, and once you wake up and you start seeing it, it starts to become obvious when it happens. A lot of the different targetings that I've been through is I've actually seen stuff happening in my own home, and they want to make you think that you've gone crazy. That would be the number one thing that they want you to do, to think that you're messed up. So I mean, there's sometimes I would see like kind of when you drip water into it, a drop of water, and it makes that little circle ripple effect. Sometimes I see that on the wall without anything happening. It's just when I walk by, you would see it. And sometimes, I would see sort of things zoom past me and stuff like that. And it's just that there's just stuff happening around the house, but they're very subtle about it, because you may think you saw it and maybe you didn't. Maybe it's just your imagination, but 99.9% of the time it's not your imagination. You did see something. But they like to use the term active imagination as a cover-up.
The swirls on the wall, Sue, that could be evidence of directed energy.
Yeah.
And the shadow beings, that could be a spiritual thing.
Yeah.
So there are both elements here. This is a spiritual war, all right? So with use of this technology, the Dark Ones use it as a weapon. And they use this for nefarious purposes, of course. And it's horrible. And I'm sure Amária can contest some of her experiences were less than great.
It's very similar. I mean, excellent description that you gave when you started talking about the different types of targeting. So I've definitely been through some of the vehicular targeting, even food poisoning. Like there's been times when we've been targeted out and we were the only ones in a group of people that were extremely ill eating the same food. And there's no other explanation, but there had to have been something put into it. The directed energy weapons. I'm actually, today I got some CBD tincture that was 60 milligrams, or excuse me, 30 milligrams, because I was told to get at least 15 by another super soldier friend, another Lixildotin, because I've been having the past few days with this, I think the energy is the way they're going on, my left brain shut down. And like a whole 10 to 12 days, it's just like my body was just kind of going through some gecko stuff. But I guess we have had also solar flares, and so there could be a lot of things. But yeah, I could definitely go into, marks on the body, missing time.
Yeah.
Microwave radiation.
Definitely missing time and marks on the body. It's ton of that,
paralysis.
especially last year. All three of us has actually been attacked on the job where we end up getting fired almost needlessly.
Out.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Losing work. So yeah, there's a lot of
there's a lot of territory to cover there. And I think you had mentioned something, and I can't remember. Oh yeah, now I remember. And so this is also a thing. They mess with your memory, and they can shut certain parts of your brain off and on, and it is really frustrating. So that's standard operating procedure, Amária, as far as targeting.
Frequency is
doesn't help when you have to pass a test.
Yeah, right, no kidding.
Right.
Oh geez.
That's amazing.
But for me, they've deleted a lot of my memories. They've implanted memories, and if I try to remember certain memories that I believe that I had in the past, I will be under extreme, excruciating pain, and I won't be able to access those memories because I just can't. It's too painful. So I don't know if that's happened to you, Amária, but I really don't like not having my own memories.
Right.
The brain machine interface that they connect us to, we're basically hooked up to AI, and it is no joke. It is no joke. It is no fun. And sometimes I really have to question whether these are my thoughts, these are my feelings.
Yep. Well, and also on top of being targeted, most of us that are in any of these military abduction type programs, which there are thousands of them, any targeting, and it doesn't even have to be military based. There's just even programs, unfortunately, that are targeted toward sex trafficking, and unfortunate men, women, and children that are being used in those programs and tortured, and also SATANIC ritual abuse is another one of those things that I have some family members that some are direct to me, some of them are extended family that have been through some of that we've actually recently had some recall on. And it's crazy to see the different ways that, like you're saying, you go into excruciating pain. Sometimes like my left brain will start to shut down, my speech center goes wacko, and I'll see the pictures, but I can't find the words. It's almost like a jumble of languages, and then I can't even it's not even going, or either that, or I go from one altar to another, because I've actually learned through NLP as well as Ericksonian psychology. I've done some QHHT with people, other types of hypnosis. And right now what I've done is I've actually unpacked all of my altars from each of the cubes that they were in. If you've ever heard of the book that Stuart Swerdlow wrote, 13 Cubed, talks about how to basically take all of your altars and unchain them or unlock them. And so I was able to do that. Excuse me. And I work with different ones. Right now, I actually have one that a couple of days ago, I started getting into a migraine. And one of the things I've been amazed by being able to master meditation and do the unlocking and integration I have so far is I was able to shift altars in about 10 minutes and the headache was completely gone. And I just mentally put that other altar in a med bed so that whatever was wrong could be taken care of. And I'm still in whatever altar I put myself in. Sometimes there's a few of them I still haven't connected enough to even know their names or what their functions are. But this one's been pretty rocking. So I'm like, all right, well, over there. Feel pretty good today. So Dr. Bloom, just kind of some of the stuff that we've been talking about and everything, like from a psychological standpoint, it's great to have you here, just one of our amazing professionals that we have and love. What have you worked with as far as working with people with targeting and unlocking maybe different memories or
we need your 2 cents. Wait a minute, inflation, 5 cents now, right?
Well, I think that's why I've been quiet so far, because unfortunately, I don't have too much experience to add in terms of targeting or working directly with, MKU, et cetera. So I'm glad we have Venezia on as our kind of resident expert under unfortunate conditions, but
yes,
she
exactly.
is.
And Amária as well.
Yeah, of course, absolutely. So I can't really speak to that. What I can speak to is, what I have seen in a very limited capacity is those who have been through trauma and recognizing that, trauma affects us in a bunch of different ways. When we have severe and extreme trauma, that it can lead to dissociation. And then what happens is the psyche can only handle so much. And then there starts to be a fragmentation. And that splitting off is then what creates what are called altars. And so essentially, as I understand it, kind of informally, is that one of the main methods of treatment is to try to get the altars to communicate with one another, to try to work towards reintegration. And when you actually look at the word healing from its Greek origins, that's what it means, to unite or to kind of come back together into wholeness. So, there's powerful forms of therapy that are out there that I use with trauma of all kinds. And one of those is called internal family systems, or IFS. And the big name behind that is Richard Schwartz. And he's written several books on the subject. And I've had a very positive experience with kind of incorporating that. And, if you do EMDR, I don't know if you guys have heard of that. That can be very powerful for trauma as well. Part of what you're doing in the first stage of prepping for EMDR is you're wanting to help folks find versions of themselves or places they can go in their mind that are safe. So, for example, could you get in touch with a wise part of yourself? Or is there some sort of figure out there, like, who knows what, a character from a movie or a book that you've read that represents someone spiritual, someone wise, someone very safe or grounding for you? And so you're kind of calling upon these different parts as helpers along the way when you're doing the trauma work. And then finding some sort of place that represents a safe space. That's kind of very common in anxiety work in general, in addition to trauma. And quite frankly, I think this is helpful for everybody. Hence kind of the book that I'm writing of, looking at some of these main psychological ingredients that you find in different forms of therapy, but extending it beyond just in couched terms of like, oh, these are therapy skills or therapy concepts, that for the most part, I argue that these are life skills that we just have not been taught, you know. And I tell my clients ad nauseum that, you know, starting in grade school, we learn dates of wars that happened hundreds of years ago. We learn times tables and long division and, you know, who knows what, all of these sorts of facts that to some degree are going to be superfluous in the real world. You know, the angles of certain triangles, etc. But, you know, what about emotional intelligence? What about learning how to navigate interpersonal relationships? What about getting in touch with just your inner world and the fact that like you have a thought life, the fact that you can get in touch with your emotions and learn how to regulate those? I mean, these are like basic but crucial skills for all of us to have. And, you know, so I think a takeaway is for all of us, you know, if you're kind of wanting something to work on, I think to spend a few minutes of time well invested in terms of finding who are those anchoring either versions of yourself or people in your mind's eye that you can draw upon, call upon to help during times of distress. And, you know, it actually reminds me that now that I'm talking about this, are you guys familiar with the name Napoleon Hill?
Yes.
He wrote a very famous book called Think and Grow Rich back in the 1920s or 30s. And essentially, he was commissioned by Andrew Carnegie to go to all of the biggest name people in the world at that time. So he interviewed prior presidents. He interviewed Thomas Edison and, you know, all the biggest names of the biggest names. And he would ask people, you know, like Henry Ford, how do you navigate the world of moving into this status that you've been moved into of not just wealth, but like creating mega companies and being able to innovate at the level that you do? And like, what do you do that really helps you? And so one of those concepts was called the mastermind, where a group of people would get together and then collectively their energy would pool to then create this kind of wise additional mind that he called the mastermind. And there's a lot that we could riff on that from even like a spiritual point of view of when we come together with our intentions. But where I'm going with this is that one of those other concepts, I don't remember what he called it, but it's this understanding that you in your mind can go to like a board meeting room and you can call upon the biggest characters in history that you resonate with. So Abraham Lincoln for wisdom during difficult times, and who knows what, someone else for wisdom or business acumen or what have you. And as you draw upon those people, you start to kind of channel a message from them in a way that is translated into wisdom that you can use in your real world everyday life. And when I first came across this, I'm like, okay, well, yeah, maybe this sounds kind of interesting. I don't know. And then I started practicing and I'm like, wow, this is actually quite powerful. And I don't know what's going on here, but I'm starting to have some thoughts that are coming from these characters in my mind's eye that are adding or contributing to real world application to my life, to the problems that I'm facing with, to the difficulties that I'm dealing with. And it goes to show the extent or just the overall power that our mind has. And so I think part of this, whether we've been targeted or whether we are dealing with forms of trauma or whether we're just navigating the basic slings and arrows of life, that you can use these kind of practical concepts to create a buffer, to recognize that there's wisdom that you can draw upon beyond what we see in this 3D matrix with, you know, our two eyes. And I think if there's one big takeaway with all of psychology, it's that nothing happens to us. It's about how we choose to deal with it, you know? And I think that's what you two would probably argue as well, if I had to venture to guess, of like, here I am in this position, but what am I going to do? You know, I'm not going to stay stuck and just play a victim mentality.
Right.
That I'm going to do my best to try to navigate and try to take some of my power back, you know?
It's kind of like doing your own therapy, being kind of your own therapist when you take these certain personalities or these certain kind of sort of alter egos or anything that we have in our mind or certain personalities or whatever. And then when we look for the, as you said, you know, safe space, safe person, safe character or whatever that in our minds to help us. I mean, the main thing is we do need to learn how to associate with certain things to when these sort of targetings happen, we can actually kind of be our own therapeutic self on it, be able to handle it. We don't have to always go to some professional. It doesn't hurt to go to a professional, obviously, and I totally would recommend it. But, I always thought that we should try to see what we can do ourselves first. I don't know if you guys agree or disagree with that.
No, absolutely. That's why I've done as much research as I've done just for myself, and then becoming a reverend and an NLP practitioner. And I just, you're just always studying. That's what I do with myself, is I'm always learning something. What can I learn about the body, the mind, the spirit, learning about tarot, learning about astrology, how energies, and even just the planetary alignments and the energies from that align and affect our personalities and our attitudes, or basically our emotions. Energetically vibrational, that's basically what Venetia was talking about with the V2K, or voice to skull technology, that they use frequencies. Music, they use a lot of different frequencies in music, popular music that's out there. I'm also a professional musician. I'm in a band. And it's amazing how just by tweaking a chord on a guitar or on a piano and taking a note up or down and making it diminished or augmented or minor or major, any of those little tweaks on a chord can make that bright, it can make it happy, it can make it sad, depressing, scary. So it's amazing what we can do in the different levels or energetic realms. And that's what I do in my practice as a psychic and energy reader. Sometimes it's kind of hard to know really what to call myself as a Lixodotan or light warrior. But what I do
spiritual Amária of all trade.
I can actually see the different levels. Yeah. And so it's almost like playing a puzzle in 3D on different energetic levels, so different vibrational levels. And so, anybody that's out there that's wanting to learn or may have questions, just start simple. Start, maybe asking questions about, what is mind control, and just start delving in from there. Don't worry about exactly, having to know every little detail, because as the way I believe it and the way that's worked for me, excuse me, in unlocking and healing the past few years has been just following with what comes up. Because I know that my guides tend to put on, it's funny, like our commercials that come up or whatever on YouTube or other things we're studying just happens to come up to be what I want, because I've set those intentions usually each night. Like, okay, tomorrow when I get up and I'm doing some research or meditation, I've got some questions about, and then I lay those on the line. And this is what I would like to learn or get out of that, and, go from there. And it doesn't have to be anything fancy. I mean, it could be very, very simple things to help start with, with your healing, with your unlocking. So anyway, welcome. I noticed that Alex Spielman hopped on a few minutes ago. Yeah. So I wanted to bring him into the conversation as well. How are you doing?
Hey, Alex.
Hello,
Alex.
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 Sorry for the delay. I was dealing with personal matters.
We love you. We're so grateful that you're on, bud.
Planet Earth is complicated.
What's that?
Earth is complicated.
Sometimes, right?
Yes. I'm glad to see Venetia is joining us today. I had a fantastic conversation with her earlier, and I'm glad that she was able to join us.
Thank you, Alex.
Really excited too. So I would love to hear a little bit about what you guys discussed. Did you guys want to bring some of your conversation into the mix here?
Yes, Alex.
Sure.
So I kind of gave them a little bit of the 411 with our prior conversation about focusing on targeting within the disclosure community and any other current events I think Amária was mentioning to touch upon.
Yeah. I know one of the things that we're talking about is actually, I actually dealt with a personal psychic event last night, actually.
Do you feel comfortable talking
We had the
about
lunar
it?
eclipse. We had the lunar eclipse.
Yeah, it's been really intense energies. I had some pretty big astral things myself. It's they were kind of personal to me, so I haven't shared them. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
been some
I,
pretty cool
I,
energies.
no, it was a very dangerous one. Very, very
Yeah.
dangerous. Oh yeah. We talk about
The
the
psychic
lovely,
attack.
yeah, yeah. Talk about our lovely Maxine, if you will. Uh,
Oh,
yeah, that lovely thing.
that very dangerous female. Yeah,
Hey, why not? Right.
always a woman.
Well, okay. Call me anti. What was that called? A misogynist right now. If you want to, feel free. I mentioned
I was just
Shoot.
poking
I'm like,
fun,
oh my
Alex. I
God,
know
how
you're not
dare you.
that.
It,
Alex is amazing.
but I was
And-
I was talking about how I was dealing with a situation where I was actually strapped to a chair cycling within the astral,
Mm,
and
I've
luckily
had those dreams.
and forcibly against my will. Had mentioned that I did not consent. I told them not to do that. Not, luckily, I was able to free myself and escape from the situation and retreat. But it was one of those feelings and experiences that did not feel like a traditional dream. It didn't feel like something that was not there. I felt it. I could smell it. I could touch it. It was one of those things where all your senses were there and more. That's how terrifying it was.
Wow.
Mm. Those are no fun at
And-
all. I'm sorry you had to go through that, hun. No fun. No fun. You might be unlocking some memories. I know that there was some stuff that I had unlocked a while back when I had dreams, bleed throughs, or visions, or I don't know. There's no right or wrong way to call it what you want. Whatever anybody resonates with. But when those things come through, it's very real, very, very real.
And here's the funny thing: is that it looked modern day. It looked like it was right now.
Interesting.
So that was probably the most chilling part of that situation. But
Was there anything,
so
Alex, that
going
you
back
did
to-
that kind of helped you get out of that?
what got me out of that situation?
Yeah.
Explain the
I
fight.
don't know.
Explain how you got out of it.
What was it?
You
Okay, that's
described to
actually
me
kinda
how you
fun.
got
That's
out
actually-
of it.
Yeah, that was actually a very entertaining aspect to it. I enjoyed that. So I was in a room where it almost looked like people had like hand scanners, like you know how we have New York has their passports and stuff like that. It was like one of those things, and clearly I'm a person who is highly critical of the current status quo of that aspect, and obviously I don't have that stuff. So I was brought to a room where I was strapped to a chair, literally arms were bound, legs were bound. Had an alcohol swab thrown onto my forearm, as if they were prepping for me to deal with any type of inoculation whatsoever. I didn't want that. Saying things like I do not consent to this practice. I did not agree to this. You have no right to do that. You're violating consent. Was able to within this thing, I was able to break myself free, snap whatever they had in their hand, because it looked like they had something sharp in their hand, and was able to flee the area.
Tell them what you told me about what you said as you were leaving.
I don't know. Oh, fine. I said hook around and find out.
That's been the theme phrase the past few days for myself.
Because
That's
it was
funny.
you know what's funny is that there was it felt like it wasn't me as I am right now. That was something far more powerful out there. As we, as a lot of us have talked about, higher powers and the power of the, not just the divine, but the astral and the physiological and other. And we're learning that right now that there is much more than what we just see between these walls and what we see with our eyes and beyond the color spectrum and things like that. There is a whole world out there, and I felt it. There was something definitely different, unique, definitely light. It was definitely a light experience. It's very hard to describe beyond that.
Well, I know that there are a lot of things about the people on this planet, especially certain people on this planet, if not everybody, whether you notice it or not, it feels like a lot of things about us are coming online.
Yes.
Slowly. Just a real us is coming online, because we experience the real us when we are asleep. We go into that world,
Yes.
but it seems like now some of that is starting to cipher into our awakened days, if you will, and merge. So I think that some of the abilities that we have when we are in the dream world is starting to come into the awakened world. I mean, from what I'm noticing, and it feels like that. And we start to feel different, and it's undescribable. You can't really put your finger on it, but you start to feel this differentness and this reality of differentness. When you look at your hand and look at the wall or something, everything just slowly starts to be different. So there's a certain type of shift happening. And I know the veil's getting thinner because we are starting to see things more, and it is showing through animals, especially. I don't know if you guys noticed, but the animals are starting to cooperate with each other when they usually are enemies with each other. And like I've said before, like an elephant carrying a lion cub, or to a watering hole, helping mama lion, lioness get to the water hole, and the elephants help carrying the baby. And recently we've been seeing like squirrels and cats get along, and they usually don't. They chase after each other up a tree. So I'm just noticing just certain things. Just the other day I saw a squirrel was playing with an acorn, and he kind of dropped it, and the cat actually picked it up and with his mouth and handed it back to the squirrel. When does that ever happen? It's just we're noticing certain cooperations. Now we have to see that with each other. We are starting to see the world split, because there's a world where we are cooperating with each other and helping one another. And then there's the other side that are riot, looting, burning, and causing all sorts of misery and mayhem to each other. We're starting to see videos on TikTok where people are being attacked and people are ganging up. And I could blame this, the CRT and classes on some of it, but they're dividing races, they're ganging up on each other, and they're beating each other up. So that's the negative side of the line that's happening, and it's happening more and more. It's just not like random isolated attack. The attacks are becoming more frequent, and especially due to certain types of class and people and race. So I just noticed that there's some sort of split, and you're starting to see it, and it's starting to get more and more obvious.
Well, what's so interesting about this whole thing is that it makes me go back to a lot of the stories that are told by Aboriginals, in native tribes. Particularly the one that comes to mind most would be the Australian Aboriginals, when they talk about dream time, and this idea where there's another realm where we understand life and existence. But we don't understand it here as we understand it out there. But as you're saying, this veil is thinning. So now what we could not understand before is now becoming more palatable for us and much more transient, I think maybe the best. Definitely it's unique to what we're dealing with right now. I cannot think of another time in which this has happened, at least in recent memory. I know a lot of us were not in this state of awareness, 5, 10 years ago. In fact, I know a lot of people who really have gone down this path within the last 5 years. Apparently, like for instance, 2020, not 2020, but 2012 would seem to be a very common kickoff point for some reason. Is it for the the common theory of the Mayan calendar? Possibly, I can't tell you. I just know that a lot of people seem to be running into the same conclusions from completely different points of view. And there's this mass convergence from every discipline that I've ever run into, running into one particular moot point. So I don't know exactly what and how this will lead us to, but I could tell you that it's going to be a very rewarding existence as long as we do our own work that we need to do, that we are here for, and that we are mindful of others.
Was this the first time, Alex, that you had ever had something like this happen to you?
This is the most recent. I have had things in the past, but nothing as vivid and nothing recent. This was actually no. I actually had one not that long ago when I think about it. It seems like you have physical manifestations and you have just basic visions. So you'll have ones where you actually can interact, and other ones where it's more like a movie theater. One of those things.
Right.
I don't know if that would be considered lucid dreaming or stuff like that, because that's sometimes what it's considered, depending. But I'm not at liberty to talk about the other one just because of the sensitive nature of it. So I'll just leave it there for now.
I'm noticing that there's
today?
actually. Oh, so I'm sorry.
I was going to say, like, how are you feeling today? Do you feel grounded? Is it like, I know, for example, when I have a bad dream and it's really intense, like that next day, I call it an emotional hangover, and it like lingers with me like a residue, psychically, if you will. Have
Alex
you
and
had
I were
much of
talking
that?
about this earlier. The other Alex.
I'm actually extremely invigorated.
Mhm.
I have it got me up early. I was able to get up early, get what I needed done. And supercharged me for some reason.
We're having a hard time hearing you, Alex. You're kind of breaking up.
No, figures.
Repeat the last 3 sentences.
I lost my train of thought.
Well, Alex and I were having this conversation earlier, and I was talking about implanted dreams because that is also in line with targeting. And whenever I do have very vivid dreams, I cannot completely rule out that it is not part of the targeting experience. Yeah, and Amária is agreeing. I think you're on mute because I can't really hear you.
Oh, I was just agreeing, but I didn't want to interrupt you. But yeah, I actually had a dream about 3 days ago, excuse me, about somebody that I care about. I'm not going to go into it just because it was one of those that it was that traumatizing. Somebody was killed, struck by a car getting out into the road. And so I told that person, just in case, because I have had premonitions that have come true. And I just said, hey, just when you're out on the road, just please pay attention and be aware of who's driving around you, because it could be V2K, somebody trying to target me, especially right before, right now we're in that beaver moon in November, of course. And then we're on top of the full moon. We've also had that big, Scorpio, Ophiuchus, energetic eclipse. And so huge energies basically on transitioning from anybody that's been doing any work on inner child traumas, anything like that. And especially if you've got like maybe a sun, moon, rising, Mars, I think even Mercury or Pluto are some pretty strong ones. Could go on. Anything in those planetary alignments, people are probably going to be noticing those energies as well. So I think being aware of everything that we could have, and I like how you said that, Benicia, that you want to kind of pay attention. You know, is this really me, or is this something that could be fed to me to get me, you know, hyped up into that state of fear? Or, you know, and any of us that have had premonitions, is this a warning? And so, excuse me, maybe paying attention to, as you calm yourself and find that samadhi or that center, that 0 point, maybe saying, okay, you know, these energies, these feelings that are going on within me, is this mine, or is this somebody's else? Is this have truth to it? One of the things that I love to talk about when I do session work is, you know, is this 100% truth, love, and light, and from the source that we've been asking to be able to have the correct information for our journey. So
I just had a question. Did the stuff that may be happening in Kenosha, would that be a form of targeting? It's the way that they're talking about, you know, the way they did to Rittenhouse, with the way the package that they said that they're thinking of doing not so savory things after, however the verdict plays out. And I'm kind of wondering if that, when they pick certain people to do certain deeds to other people, if that is some sort of programming they put online, almost like pushing a button and activating soldiers, if you will.
Well, that is a multi-part question, and I'll let Amária take it, and then I'll pick it up after she's done.
You know, I think a lot of the targeting, it could be multi-level as well, just kind of adding with what you're asking on. I don't think it could just necessarily be, you know, one individual. For instance, think about DARPA, or the way that the weather can be modified, and what recently happened to British Columbia and the flooding, and how everything's pretty much set off, or the fires that we've been having from directed energy weapons. There's a lot of different things that can be targeted that way. Sorry, my brain, this is another part of that targeting again. My brain's going in circles. I apologize.
That's
I'm doing a loop. I'm doing a loop, and so
I can take it from here if you
yeah,
like.
if you want to, because I just got in a loop and now I'm like, sorry.
Yeah, just, you know, let me know when you pick it up again, because it happens to me too. And, you know, they also mess with my voice as well. So I get it. I totally understand. And it's more frustrating than anything else.
Yeah, it is very frustrating.
So the part answer to your question, as far as can they activate people? Yes, they can. And they are Delta program shooters. They're the ones that go out and all of a sudden they'll just go shooting people on a rampage. And then of course they're going to paint this very crazy psychological profile of them. And that's stereotypical of what they do with these types of programs, especially the Delta program. So there's that. But also, if you're plugged into the matrix, anyone who is plugged into the matrix, which means just about everybody, they can make you think, say, and do just about anything. And they can make you feel things as well. So they can plant the idea in your mind. They can make you want to do it. Okay. And then even though sometimes like you think it's your original thought, oftentimes it's not. And there's another part to this that I can go into, but I'm going to stay on track with this as far as the topic that we're discussing right now. Excuse me. So basically, they can make you want to kill people. They can hit you with the frequency of anger, and not just anger, fury, rage, and they can turn anyone violent. And there was a movie like this. It was shown in a movie as part of disclosure. What was it? Kingsman? It was the first Kingsman movie, I believe, where they were all
talking about the scene in the movie where he's in the middle of he's in the church.
Yes.
and they turn a dial, and all of a sudden everyone has this murderous fervor.
That's not a joke. It's not
No,
a
I know.
joke.
Wow.
Yeah.
How do people know when they're plugged into the matrix and when they're not?
Most people are so unconscious, I think, that they don't realize that unless they've been starting inner work, I think. I mean, I think probably Alex could probably confirm that just with as many patients as you've worked with. Whenever you start seeing people like in a state of psychosis, it's usually when we're in that victim mode of fear, anger, like already kind of tied into those cycles. When we start breaking out of those cycles and those patterns and integrating and healing, we start to get more of a thicker skin, standing on our own, kind of less emotions. Like, how do you think as far as that goes? As far as activation, I think it makes it harder to start activating those kind of people once, you
A
know.
lot of this, you'll know. I mean, we live in a world of energy, right? Everything is energy. Even the things that we see around us that are supposedly hard, like the laptops that we're on right now, et cetera. If you have an electron microscope and you zoom in enough, the inner core of an atom is just a wave particle, right? It's energy. So energy, waves, vibration, it's all saying the same thing. And it's interesting because I've been listening to a podcast episode with my guide from Egypt, and on it, he was mentioning something that reminded me of what he shared when we were on our tour together, which is that one of the hieroglyphic symbols is the snake. And when the snake is in kind of its wave pattern on the symbol, he interprets that as energy, as like a wave particle. And back then, that was how they could interpret that. And even stargates is something that was very clearly apparent. I can go into that more maybe on another episode, but it was fascinating because you literally saw like at the Hathor temple, like a star and then the symbol for a gate, like, or a doorway, like right afterwards. So it was literally Stargate. So I'm getting on a tangent. Where am I going with this? So vibration. So the more that we can take control over our vibration, as I say ad nauseum on our show here, then the more we're going to feel empowered. And how we know how we're vibrating is based on our emotion, right? Emotion or energy in motion. So when we start to break free from the shackles of the matrix, again, broadly speaking, that then we'll know that because we'll be in more of a high vibe state. If you look at, like, I drove downtown today, and all you saw, in addition to a lot of the homeless camps and all the bicycles that have been stolen, just trash everywhere, is people literally walking like zombies. They're all wearing masks. They're all looking down. They're all not conscious. There's no life behind their eyes. And they're just like, Dolores Cannon calls them background people, like they're not even, they don't even look alive. They look like an NPC from a video game.
Oh, I know. I think I know which ones you're talking about.
And so,
Sorry, go ahead.
And so the last thing I'd say here is, if you're wanting to break free from this metaphorical matrix, we use that word, there's lots of different ways of saying the same thing. Number one is you have to care about how you feel. That's a huge factor that Esther Hicks talks about a lot. And number two is my suggestion would be to practice mindfulness. I mean, this is one of the most important, as I tell my clients, not just therapy skills, but life skills that any of us can ever. I mean, I could give a presentation for 3 hours on the benefits that come from mindfulness. And every year the research is growing exponentially in all the different things that you can apply mindfulness for to make improvements in our life. That's even from a 3D perspective. For our physical health, it extends the length of our DNA, and it helps with all these physical complaints, and obviously mental health, and the list goes on. But from a spiritual point of view, it's huge. And now let's put mindfulness back in its proper context. Okay. Mindfulness comes from Buddhism. And in Buddhism, the Pali word that they use to describe mindfulness is vipassana. And if you loosely translate vipassana directly, it means insight meditation. And there's a reason why the Buddha said that this vipassana is the tool to help you reach enlightenment. It's because through this mindful awareness, you recognize present moment, present moment, present moment, present moment. And in the present moment, you start to move beyond this kind of paradoxical piece of you are in the present moment, but you're also recognizing in that you're moving beyond what John Kabat-Zinn calls clock time. You know, we're in our mind, we think past and present and future, and we time travel, right? Like I've talked about before. And so what we realize is as we tune in more to present moment, we recognize actually both from like a theoretical philosophical conversation as well as a nuts and bolts practical conversation, the present moment is all we ever have. That's it, you know? So the question then becomes, how tuned in are we to now? Because with each tick of that clock, we're in a new now moment. And so the invitation is always coming back to us, are we here or are we not? And if we're not here, one of the attributes of mindfulness is to not judge because you're not here. And it makes a real world sense because there's no need to judge because you're going to be in a new moment the next second. So it's irrelevant because what you're judging is now something that's in the past, you see. And so with mindfulness, when you reach enlightenment is one of those words that's been put on a pedestal, you know, like all the other phrases that often comes when, you know, religions start to form, that you take the base core teachings and then they're distorted. Enlightenment just simply means that you are in touch with your totality of consciousness and you recognize that all there ever is now. And so when we're talking about multi-dimensions and all of these sorts of factors and everything, it's the recognition that now is all there is. And that you move beyond the Maya, the illusion, the 3D reality, the matrix, whatever we want to call it, that there's more out there. And then if we kind of infuse some of Jesus's core teachings, it's like the kingdom of heaven. The kingdom of heaven is upon you or at hand is what he said. What does that mean? What does upon you or at hand mean? It means now, here, present. What does kingdom of heaven mean? It's a realm. It's an existence. Heaven or God is this reference of this idea of like being in tune with the infinite, with the creator, with all that is. It's this idea that like you can be in such a high vibe state that you and your maker are one and the same, that there is an attunement that starts to happen. So once you understand that core piece, doesn't matter what you know, religious source or text you're reading, at their core nature, they're all saying the same thing. And so mindfulness, whether we call it that or we call it, you know, today is the day that the Lord has made, or wherever your kind of core teachings are guiding you, it's all saying the same thing. And so mindfulness, whatever word we want to put there, present moment focus or awareness, becomes such a powerful tool for us because then we get out of the limitations that come from this. This can be a trap. And what we recognize is that small ego mind does not define us. And it's so cool for me because with clients, it's almost like training wheels in a way, because they're not taught this. They come to me and their mind's like blown, you know? And I'm like, these are basic things. Again, we should all be taught this in grade school. Like, you are not your body. Your body doesn't define who you are. You don't have to make up your sense of self based on what this vessel or this meat suit is that you live in. Because guess what? This is going to change. It's temporal. It's always transitioning, you know? Thank God this body didn't come out of my mother, you know, all 6'3" of me, right? You know? So as we kind of go through life, there are transitions that happen. So if I'm not my body, even though Madison Avenue, and when I read the magazine articles and everything, they're all saying, oh, well, you know, you need to have this latest, I don't know, makeup product or else you're going to be inferior. You move beyond that Maya. You move beyond that illusion. So if I'm not my body, if I'm not a gorgeous, you know, Victoria's Secret model, etc., then who am I? What am I? What does that mean? Well, I'm not my mind either. My mind doesn't define who I am. I have thoughts. I am not thoughts, you know? And so this is also what mindfulness does. We move beyond the thinking. We get in touch with the thinker aspect. So now what we're doing, as I phrase it, is we're moving away from what's called coming from the thought, where the thought's in control and we're just having to intrinsically believe it. If I'm thinking this, it must be true. Like what you guys are saying with your experience, right? Is this mine? Or is this coming from somewhere else, right? That questioning, that ability to kind of create that separation is so crucial for every human being. right? So if I'm not my thoughts and I can look at my thoughts, now there's a sense of empowerment. Now there's leverage. Now I'm able to start to question and create this disconnect, to be able to look at what's coming in, what that kind of constant chitter chatter that's going on. So if I'm not my thoughts and I'm not my body, then what am I? I'm something beyond that. I'm a consciousness. I'm a larger sense of awareness of who I am. And once we start getting in touch with that, then we start kind of looking around and saying, whoa, is this real? Whoa, wait a minute. Let me start to question things. It's like smelling salts in a way, you know? So we start saying like, but what on the TV is saying one thing, but then I'm seeing something online that's saying something else, or I'm reading these sorts of pieces, you know, like what we talked about, you know, a couple of years ago, like the McClure investigation, right? It's like, wait a minute, but in all of these mainstream media articles, I'm clearly reading that Trump it's already said and done. Like he clearly was in cahoots with collusion and obstruction of justice and everything as it pertains to Russia. But now Mueller's saying there's nothing. Like, how do I integrate that? That's on a political level. But let's look at Kyle, right? Another great example. Once you watch the video and you see that also that one individual that went on the stand as well, now all of a sudden, wait a minute, how does that fit in with what the media is telling me? And wait a minute, now they're saying he's a white nationalist. Well, wait a minute. Everyone that was involved with this scenario was also of the same skin color. They were all Caucasians. Race wasn't even a factor here. But yet when I watch all of the mainstream media, they're wanting to paint this as a racial crime. Like, how does that fit in? So this questioning is so crucial for us right now. And as a global society, that's what's going on. And you're seeing this meltdown as this disconnect is starting to happen, that people are moving away. They're starting to question the credibility of the mainstream media has never been this low ever. And that's part of the waking up process for us. Don't you see the unrest everywhere? People are pissed. People are fighting in the streets. People are mad. People are protesting, whether if it's the jab mandates or it's whatever else is kind of going on, that there's this unrest, but that's part of the awakening process, you see. And so after we move through this collective anger, it's going to come in waves, and you're just going to see it more and more and more. So it's important for us as the light workers that we are to be able to kind of hold space for these people as they further come in. So the last thing I'll say here is that's why it's so essential for us to do our work, no matter what we're facing in our life, especially for you two folks, given what you're forcibly having to go through. I know you'd agree with me that like doing your work is like, you have to do it. You can't not do it, right?
When the shit hits the fan, you have to clean it up. And sometimes there's those days when I have to remove myself from humaning and I have to go deal with shit. And sometimes there's tears and there's snot and there's nausea or headaches or body pain. But, you know, facing your demons and actually being able to do it each time a little bit more and more, you know, yeah, I started out having to have somebody hold my hand, having to have a support system. And I've gotten to the point now where I can go into the woods or the wherever by myself, even if I have to do it for a week, and be able to just go inside myself and do all of that, you know, recognizing and compassionately witnessing whatever it is before me and recognizing, okay, I'm feeling this emotion, whether it's mine or not. This is right here, right now. It sucks. It's horrible. But, you know, what can I do to get through this? Because I don't need to hold on to this for another minute, you know, and sometimes it takes a few minutes, sometimes it takes a few hours. But eventually, as you put it in that intent, and you look at that emotion and that feeling, and if it is something maybe that's in my past or an inner child thing, for instance, I'll go ahead and tell you what I did on a meditation the other day. So I was looking at some trauma that I had gone through, just with relationships, starting as a child all the way back into, you know, even relationships with my family, my parents, my siblings, extended family, anybody that had been friends or lovers or any level of relationship. And what I did is I made a huge circle of these little med bed chairs, and I put every one of them in a chair of their own, and I strapped them in. And I said, I know that this is against your free will, but so was the crap that I've been through. And so what we're going to do is we're going to do a karmic exchange here, basically. And so what I did is I looked at each one of the people in that chair, or that maybe there was still a trigger, looking at their face. And I shrunk everybody to child size, about 8 years old or less, because I wanted to make each one of us more approachable. So everybody's a child. And what I did is I just went to each one of those people and I told them, okay, this is how I feel. This is how I was hurt. Okay, now your turn. And I let that person not only tell me, but show me. I felt their pain. I also was able to get on a level of understanding that, I wasn't the only one hurt. That person could very well have been hurt. And I allowed whatever that flow that needed to happen. And then we were all able to, after this, all of us little children in this group, it's like we were all of a sudden dressed in white. And there was this feeling of peace and love. And I felt like we were on this playground. We were all able to say, let's bygones be bygones, forgive, and just be like a little child. Like Yeshua said in the Bible, be like a little child. And what that is when you look at little children, the true innocence of little children, when maybe they have a little scuffle or a tiff, they'll kind of, do whatever they need. They get their pecking order. They get over it, they move on, and they forgive, and they'll go and they'll run up to each other and they'll hug and they'll share something. That's what it is, to be able to let that trauma go, let the emotion of it go, stop holding on, don't be attached, take the attachment away from it, pull out that root, whatever you want to call it. And then I was able to get to that point of those little children and that innocence and that love. And so whatever it is for you, that just happened to be what I needed to do for that particular session that I did on myself. So
Cool.
That's
I hope that helps.
amazing. Wow. I love that. I love
Sure.
that method.
Yeah.
Mhm.
thank you.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
See, this is the power of creativity. We are so unlimited in terms of our potential, but we have to get in touch with it. We have to get in touch with our intuition. We have to be able to move past the programming of, like, I get up in the morning and I go to work and I come home and I watch TV and I go to bed. That's the 3D heaviness of it all. And when we can move past that through creative expression, whether that means an art form of painting or poetry, or just doing kind of creative meditations, kind of like, to some degree, what you were saying, all of that has us get in touch with our core nature, because at the root of ourselves, we are creative beings. We've just been fed a false bill of goods, to tell us that we're limited and we're no good, and that, there's no time in our world, in our life, to be creative. You've got to pay the bills and you've got all these responsibilities and adulting and everything. And it's all meant to kind of keep us confined in the box.
Yeah. So every single
Awesome.
one of us needs to get those box cutters and start cutting away at it, right?
There you go.
Yeah.
So I just want to kind of circle back to something that Alex had mentioned previously regarding the stronger sense of self and getting to know yourself. And so once you know yourself and who you are, you have a stronger sense of self, then you can differentiate between what is yours and what is not yours, because you have a stronger identity of whether or not something is and is not yours, if it belongs to you or if it's coming externally, coming from an external source. So what Alex was saying earlier, as within, so without, pretty much, the work, the internal work on the individual personal level, and also on the collective level, as far as the collective consciousness of humanity. And so that's what's happening here, is we're all having to deal with our shadows. And we either answer the call or we don't. But for those that are answering the call, we are putting that healed seed back into the collective consciousness, and we are helping others awaken by doing so. And this is a beautiful thing, because it is like a chain reaction, because we're all connected. And then it just starts all over the place. And then
That 100th monkey effect really takes effect, is basically exactly what you're talking about. Venezia. Thank you so much for
Yeah,
bringing
and
that up,
all
'cause
is
that's
up
so
to
true.
you. Yeah, absolutely. And all is up
Absolutely.
to you. It's up to all of us to decide whether we want the chain reaction to be positive or a negative chain reaction, because it does a loop. You can have these positive loops inside your mind and inside yourself, or when you think of what you think of yourself or what you think of your surroundings. I kind of can give an example of myself. I'd had been hearing all kinds of things that has been told to me throughout my lifetime of different types of thoughts about myself. And when you repeat those things, it's same as manifesting. um Alex, Dr. Alex Boone can probably attest to this, that when you manifest a certain thought, you're basically almost putting yourself in a hamster wheel of that thought over and over again. And if you start manifesting negativity in your mind, then it starts manifesting all around you. You start seeing evidence that forces you to confirm, oh, I'm not good enough, or I'm not smart enough. Oh, there's this person over here that thinks I'm not good enough and smart enough. There's this business over here that thinks I'm not good enough or smart enough or whatever, or beautiful or whatever. And so you kind of put yourself in this negative cycle, because you're saying, well, it's confirmed. It's confirmed that I'm an awful person because there's evidence around me. So then you're manifesting these evidence. So you got to kind of turn it over and switch it over, and kind of put yourself more into a positive cycle, because now that you'll start seeing evidence of the positiveness that, oh, you're not stupid, or you're not ugly, or you're not, all sorts
Yeah.
of whatever it is goes around. What do you think about that, guys?
Yeah. I mean, that's what happens, right? We get caught up in the feedback loop. Then that feedback loop confirms our prior beliefs. And then in psychology, there's a concept called confirmation bias, which means that we want to believe our beliefs because from a psychological perspective, it keeps us safe if there's consistency. So when we are constantly putting out the same broadcasted energetic message, and then life through the law of the vibration then comes back to us what we're putting out, then we say, oh, see, look, there it is, look at all these life circumstances. But we don't realize when we're in the matrix that it's just giving back to us the same message that we're dishing out. So we have to move beyond that. Hence why mindfulness is so important as that first step. It's the shoehorn that gets us out, because now we're taking more ownership and control of what that vibration message is. And then we can say, oh, wait a minute, time out. Let me course correct. Let me change the trajectory here. And then over time, we start building momentum, which is kind of like what Sue is saying, but it's now more purposeful momentum. It's not default momentum where we're constantly just seeing, what it is that we're seeing. One of Abraham Hicks's metaphors is when you're driving a car, if you're driving a car and you're only looking down, then you're just going to see the pavement. And you're like, well, I guess that's all there is, because that's what the car is currently rolling past. Right. No, you got to lift your head up and look through the
windshield.
Thank you. Yeah.
Right.
It's been a long week. Got to look through, because that's the vision, right? That's what you're moving towards. And all of us need to have that kind of vision in front of us, right? So if we don't know what our life's purpose is, it doesn't matter. What fills you up? What are you excited about? What lights you on fire? And if you don't even know what that is, start small. What are some things that make life worse? What dulls your sparkle? And just be in touch with that, for goodness sake, and be able to say, these people drain me when I'm around them, or I can't even speak my truth when I'm around them. Cut those people out. It's toxic. That's how you start.
It's time to purge.
Yeah, that's how you start kind of, if we were able to get in touch with our infinite potential and be who we are at our core nature, then think about it like a cork when it's in water. It's naturally going to rise up by default. Right. But what happens is we have all these weights that hold us down from society, from our core beliefs, from what we've been programmed with, and all the other things, even on an energetic vibrational level, the interdimensional beings, all of it. Like these things hold us down. So this is why it's so crucial for us to do our work. We're cutting those strings to help us slowly have that cork move up and up and up.
Yeah, well, vibration is the
I love
key
that.
word. It's like being in a cave. I love going in caves. I've been in Mark Twain cave, and there's parts of the cave where you can scream out stuff and it echoes back at you. So if you scream out something negative, as in you're an effing idiot, you're gonna hear it come back. You're an
See?
effing idiot,
That's
and
right.
Yeah.
so what you're willing to push out there vibrationally, you have to be willing to have it come back. So if you don't want that, you're an effing idiot to come back at you, maybe that's not something, the intention that you need to put out,
Yep. There you go,
So
Sue.
I mean, we had fun with that, with those caves though, but still it's same thing, of how bats do it, they have their screechers,
And
they find a way. We have our
Echolocation,
echo,
yeah,
yep,
sonar.
echolocation. So echoes are very useful for bats to help them find a way. Vibration and echoes is very useful for us to find our way in life as well. We have a way to put something out, and it actually will help us navigate life. And we don't see it that way a lot of times, but we use this to help us navigate, whether we see, let's just say that we see a certain lights in the trees. When you go hiking, you see light in the trees that feels positive, but then you see shadows that feels negative, and you navigate through what parts feel comfortable with you. And so it's the same thing with life. We see certain things that are very nice, we kind of anchor ourselves to those things that are very nice, and it can guide us, navigate us around the things that are not so nice, and help us deal with it.
I was
I like that. That's very good metaphors there.
Mhm.
Thank you, Sue.
I wanted to piggyback on what Dr. Boone was talking about when it came to confirmation bias, because I could personally resonate with that very well. Uh, Especially since I remember I was dealing with depression for a while there, and one of the things that I know was going through my mind when I was dealing with that, and I know I've had other people say the same thing about this, is this idea of I can't. You just keep on saying I can't, you won't, I'm not good enough, I'm not great, I'm not smart enough, I'm not wise enough, and
All lies.
yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Love it.
Right.
Thank
The
you.
book, The Little Engine That Could.
I know it wasn't the little engine that couldn't. Come on now,
Yeah.
right? Great, great.
Yeah. I'm
Sorry about that. I
What?
didn't mean to interrupt. Sorry, Alex.
That was my fault.
where I was going
Yeah,
with this is that I know I came to my senses when I realized, like, hey, why am I actually asking these questions in the first place? Or why am I saying those things? It's one of those things where all of a sudden you realize there's a feedback loop, and you're like, why is this loop actually happening in the first place? It's when you actually it's when you're actually kind of having what I call a fourth wall moment,
Yeah.
where you're able to you back up for a second. And you're like, that's weird. Why are you doing that? We've been doing this for a while. Is this really smart that we keep on doing this? I mean, last time I checked, doing the same thing and expecting a different result is another name for insanity.
No,
Yeah.
And
excellent point.
and, yeah.
So along the same lines, as far as metaphors, I'm just going to add my metaphor. One of my favorite metaphors is the hot air balloon with the sandbags to hold it down. So you
Oh, yes.
you cut off the sandbags so you can go higher. And this can be a variety of things. And like Dr. Bloom said, it's not just, well, so people in your life can be toxic, and cutting them out can actually raise your vibration. What you surround yourself with,
Yes.
what you intake is what you put in your body, what you eat, what you drink, what you put on your skin. But it's not only just that, it's the energy that you surround yourself with. Like Dr. Bloom said, everything is energy. When you surround yourself with negative people, toxic people, sociopaths, psychopaths, whatever, narcissists, one of our favorite. Yeah.
I know a few of those. On
Okay.
that line, Venezia, the other day when I was doing that cleansing, that integration of a lot of that childhood trauma, relationship trauma, there was a few people that I had, I mean, a lot of times we have pictures that we save in our life that we're like, whatever. And I mean, I don't do much on the Facebook side of it, but I thought about on my phone, I'm like, why am I carrying all of this shit around? why do I have all of these people
Yes.
on my phone that I'm never going to call again, that have either we've affected each other toxically, and I admit, yes, I've been, whatever it was, we just did not mesh. Why did I keep that? And deleting all of that was so, like, I literally felt a shift, and it was like I went boom boom, and it was just
Oh, yeah.
elating. It was amazing. It felt so cleansing, and I was just like so happy. It was really cool.
Mhm.
So, dude, go
Yep.
clean out your phone.
Same thing with cleaning your house, right?
Yeah, I was
Yes,
about to bring
absolutely.
that up. Beat me to
Yeah.
it, brother.
Purging.
Yeah, if you just clean stuff, you have the clutter around. Because remember the echo thing I was talking about with the bat? And then not only is a voice thing, but it's the thing around your house. When you talk, and I don't know if you guys would notice, but if you go into an empty room like a gymnasium, most of the time gymnasiums are fairly empty. If you talk at a gymnasium, you kind of get this clear feedback. You kind of get this clear feel. And when you go into I've noticed when I go into people's houses that have less furniture than me, that a lot of big space room and stuff, it feels this free feel. But when you feel a pile of clutter and you feel just junk in your house, so when you talk, when you move around, your vibration, there's all these blocks in the way.
Oh yeah.
And it
Kind of
comes
that
back to you.
feng shui.
It comes back to you. Yeah, it kind of comes back to you distorted. It comes back to you not as clean as it is when you sent it out. And that's what clutter does. Clutter
Right.
is like extra walls, it's extra roadblocks, it's extra just stuff in a way. And so that's why, like feng shui, as you put it, it's famous. It puts things in a certain way, because when you talk, when you move around, there's all this vibration that comes to feedback, and that vibration will feel good. It doesn't feel good if it comes back choppy because you were talking in front of a pile of newspaper that's stacked up from 3 years ago. But if you have these clear certain type of furniture or a certain type of material that comes back, that's why part of feng shui talks about types of material and types of colors and things, because of your eyes, your ears, and your body vibration. All of that adds up to that. When you put out, you want it to bounce back positively. So it's hard to have that positive bounce back if you have a pile of junk in the way.
Cleanliness is next to godliness.
Yes, absolutely. It does definitely change the vibration. I love to straighten up, and my studio right now needs one of those.
I think it's even more than that. I mean, when you think about it, when you're not feeling good or in a good mood, you kind of have a weighty feel to yourself. You kind of feel weighed down, and then when you're feeling good, you actually feel like you're light on your toes.
Mhm.
There's
Yeah, you have
actually
less.
yes.
That's why they
you
say
have-
less is more. If you ever
Oh,
heard
yeah.
them say that.
It
Nah.
definitely makes a difference.
But yeah, when you're, that's why there are phrases like being down in the dumps or being on cloud nine. I mean, I can do all the metaphors you want, but most of them are just at this point self-evident because we just have all these expressions at this point.
Right.
Yeah.
So
We can question where those expressions came from.
I just
Well,
wanted to kind of, okay,
Oh,
go ahead. Sorry, Amária.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. I'll
So
let you
I'm gonna kind of
finish.
take it off. I'm gonna take it off like off topic, so a little bit.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna do a wrap up, but if you wanted to share what you're gonna share, let's go for it.
Go for it. Go
Okay.
for it.
All right. So I think Dr. Bloom had mentioned something about it was mindfulness. Around the subject of mindfulness. So one of the things I wanted to mention, as far as what's happening with targeted individuals and MKU, and also to basically the majority of the population at this very moment, because of Alex's girlfriend, Maxine. Okay.
Remind me to talk to you afterwards.
Okay.
Fight,
So
fight.
so I just wanted to say that there's quite a bit of psychological warfare happening right now, and the psychological warfare is only really it only really sticks if you don't have a strong sense of self. You are still in herd mentality, going keeping up with other people and what have you, and are basically our society has been conditioned to do this. It's through CIA social conditioning through generations, at least 3 generations. So my point being is that once you develop a stronger sense of self, the psychological warfare is not going to take hold as deeply. So the marketing, the propaganda, oh, it's your turn. Oh, you better do your part or whatever.
God,
and
yeah.
then all of this stuff. This is to undermine the sense of self and our sovereignty ultimately. And this is what it is that they want. They want us to relinquish our sovereignty
Yes.
with our own free will. So the way out is how, and this is also parallels with the targeting program. Okay, you have a strong sense of self. You can navigate through this targeting program a lot easier. And what Dr. Bloom was saying earlier, I'm not sure I'm going to paraphrase correctly, okay? So please forgive me. And now I can't remember. Sorry, I'm having one of those moments now. But regardless, a strong sense of self and navigating through this landscape here, through the psychological warfare, is absolutely paramount for us as a collective to navigate through what is this situation at the moment. And so there you have it. There's parts that I forgot that I was going to say, but oh well, maybe another time.
You know,
Yeah,
that actually was
they
beautiful.
navigate.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was awesome. That was really, really awesome. They use fear. That's one of the main things. That's why you need your self empowerment. You need to break away from all of these programmings, because the number one thing they're going to use is fear. Right now, my husband and I are being put to the test with this. He just got this letter, the dreaded letter that we were wondering if we were going to get, the dreaded letter that the possibility of losing a job. We're going to do everything we can to keep it in a legal sense, but here we go. The ouchie that they want you to take in order for you to keep your job. And, you know, when you're empowered, you're not afraid. You have the knowledge to say, okay, we're going to tackle this, and we're going to do everything on our legal side that we can do. We empower it with knowledge and information is what we're going to give them. We're going to write them the letter, and we're going to tell them our side. Now, people are constantly afraid right now of this because those who do have a job, and the fear of losing it is very real. And that's how the matrix grabs a hold of you. So if you have your own power and self-worth, you say, okay, if we lose it, we have other ways of surviving. We will find ways to survive. There'll be outside forces, loving outside forces, that will be there to help us not fall. And if we do fall, then so be it. We will find a way to rise back up. That's where the power comes back in.
Excellent. Thank you. All very, very excellent points. What were you wanting to say there, Alex?
Real quickly. And last thing I want to say was, you know that you're in control when people are trying to bring you down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's all. That's all I'll say about that.
Yep.
The slack is the worst when you're above the target.
Yes.
So that's what I've been told.
Excellent discussion. Thank you so much, Venezia, for coming on with us today. I would love to have you on again. Yes, absolutely.
I love that. I'd love that.
I think doing these roundtables and helping people, you know, directing them, especially, you know, going to their own research. Of course, again, like we've said in past shows, for those that want to be doing research and searching, I use DuckDuckGo. There's other servers that you can use. I would definitely say stay away from anything that uses Google, just because of the shadow banning and just, you know, all the propaganda that, you know, we've discussed a little bit. So thank you so much again, guys. Thank you, Dr. Bloom, for being with us. It's been an honor, and always love to hear you. Thank you so much, Sue, for your amazing metaphors and insight. And of course, Alex Spielman, thank you for coming in. I appreciate you coming in. I know that you had kind of
Really
a rough
awesome. Yeah.
rough time today.
I couldn't let you
Yeah.
guys.
Thank
have
you for
the fun.
coming on. Thank you for coming on. Both of you, Alex.
Awesome. Yes.
I couldn't let you guys have all the fun.
Oh shoot. Well, thank you
I-
guys. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna just say I enjoy spending our Friday evenings together.
Always,
Yeah.
always a great round table.
Something we look forward to.
Awesome. Well, again, it's been a great evening. Thank you so much, guys, for being with us with HeartMind Expressions and the Fab Four. And we will see you guys next time on Soma Fusion Media and our sister sites.